So this is my Volcanic Tempest Burning Abyss OTK deck. So this version of the Tempest deck uses the Burning Abyss engine. It's very useful when obviously you're using Lava Golem as your 3000 monster that you will attack into and take 3000 points of damage, so you can play Infernal Tempest. And we will of course have Unknown Synchron, which has 0 attack and it can be special summoned. You can only apply the effect once per duel, so once you use it, make use of it of course, because once you use it, the other two won't be able to do their effect because you already did it once. Battle Fader is another option. Of course, it's good defensively, but of course at 0 attack you can switch it to attack mode and attack Lava Golem and take 3000 points of damage to be able to activate Infernal Tempest. Typically you could probably just give your opponent Lava Golem, and if your opponent decides to attack you while you have a face down Infernal Tempest, that's another way you can activate the card obviously, but that's not likely, especially if somebody knows what your deck can do, especially in game 2, because if you successfully do the combo in game 1, they're going to know to be careful, and they're more likely going to tribute Lava Golem and some of the monsters with less attack, or they're not going to attack with it, or they'll exceed with it, synchro with it, whatever, or Dark Hole. Since they already know why you gave them Lava Golem, they're not going to attack with it obviously. They're trying to prevent you from being able to get your combo off. But anyway, Lava Golem is a nice little way of guaranteeing your opponent will have a 3000 that you can attack into and take damage from Infernal Tempest. And then once you apply Infernal Tempest, of course, now there's plenty of monsters out of play. DD Dynamites will be live, so you'll be able to deal 300 points of damage to your opponent for each of their cards that are removed from play. It's good, it's not just monsters, it's cards, so if they have any spell or trap that's removed from play, will also deal damage for that. But typically would deal damage only for their monsters, because you play Infernal Tempest, and Infernal Tempest only gets rid of monsters from both deck and graveyard, which is awesome. Lava Golem also can help you get rid of any problematic monsters, or let's say your opponent has 2 monsters with 3000 attack. It's better for him to have just 1 monster with 3000 attack than 2 of them, right? So you could tribute both and give them 1 3000. And this 3000 most players don't want to keep, so they'll find a way to get rid of it as soon as possible. So that's also good. Plus again, it's good for problematic stuff. There might be something that's in your way. There might be a Stardust Assault mode, anything. What's his name that most decks use to go up against Burning Abyss? Vanity's Fiend, I think it is, and it's the one that negates effects. Since Lava Golem summoning is not an effect, it's an inherent summon, you can tribute the Vanity's Fiend with some other monster and give them Lava Golem, and then you can start summoning your Burning Abyss, as an example. It also comes in handy in case they have a monster that doesn't let you special summon dark types. Then you can give them Lava Golem, which is a fire type, so you can tribute that monster plus another monster and summon Lava Golem. Now you can summon your dark types, which will be your Burning Abyss, Battle Faders, Unknown Synchrons, the works. And it deals 1000 damage during their standby phase, as long as they control it, of course. So that's another aspect to it, is you can deal your opponent burn damage, which is the point, is to reduce your opponent's life points to 0. Fire King Avatar Kirin. This will help you get your, mainly will help you get your Volcanic counters to the graveyard, which is the main thing you want to get to the graveyard with that effect. But if you want to send a Lava Golem to the graveyard for any particular reason, you can, since he has fire attribute. But typically you will send a Volcanic counter, so that way you can use Volcanic counter's effect. When you take battle damage, your opponent takes the same damage as you do, as long as there's a fire monster still in the graveyard when Volcanic counter's effect activates. This is a mandatory activation effect where you don't get to choose when it activates when you take battle. So if somebody deals you 100 points of damage, this will be removed from play, and your opponent will take 100, and that's it. Of course, we want to deal big damage, but you know, whatever happens, happens. But the main thing you want to do, obviously, is prevent them from dealing you a little bit of damage. You want to set this effect off, so you want to make sure that you can do something. One combo you can do, obviously, is you can, like, first turn set a Kieran, then your opponent kills, let's say your opponent summons, like, special summons a monster, sets another one, hypothetically, right? Attacks you with one monster, kills your Kieran. Kieran lets you send a counter to graveyard, and then they end their turn. Now they have two monsters on the side field, right? You draw, you tribute their two monsters, give them Lava Golem, end your turn. Let's say you have a Battle Fader in your hand, just in case they summon multiple monsters, and you don't want to, you know, lose by them summoning multiple monsters. They'll take 1,000 for Lava Golem, right? Then, if they attack you with Lava Golem, let's say they keep it and they attack you with it, you know, you can allow the attack and save your Battle Fader, right? Allow the attack, take 3,000, then your opponent will take 3,000 because counter's effect will activate. They'll take 3,000, and they just lost 4,000, so that's half their life points already gone. And then if they attack with like another monster or something, then you can, you know, Battle Fader, or you can construction train signal red, and, you know, and be able to block the attack and, you know, save some life points for later on in the duel. You don't want to lose, right? The goal is for your opponent to lose. Then we got, of course, we got your battle stoppers, your hand traps. You know, I mean, this deck is largely monsters. You got signal red. This will protect you from potentially 2 attacks. The first attack that this is used against, it won't die by battle, so no matter how strong that monster is, it won't kill this. But any other monster that has 14 or higher attack will be able to kill it on the secondary attack, right? If a monster has the ability to attack twice, it can kill this. But here's the thing, at least you block that monster's ability, like a Cyber Twin Dragon. You were able to block it from killing your train and then attacking directly. It has to kill your train twice, so that works out pretty good. It can actually block Cyber Twin's abilities. And this is useful in many other ways, because one of the aspects of this card is that it forces you into the damage calculation. So any effects that activate at the start of the damage step, you bypass that and go straight to damage calculations. So that effect of, you know, the effect of the monster won't apply. For example, if somebody attacks you with a Catastor starts at the start of the damage step. This forces you to damage calculation. So that bypasses Catastor's effect, and Catastor won't destroy this by its effect. It'll just go straight into battle, you know, into damage step. It can't kill it by battle, and then that's it. Damage step over. So that's useful. That way you could block a Catastor. So yeah, I like that. Battle Fader, awesome. Ends battle phase. Even if skill drains on the field, Shadow Imprisonment on the field, it won't prevent the whole part of the effect where the battle phase is ended, because that's a condition of Battle Fader summoning, not an effect. So that's always good. And he removes from play. That could be useful, you know what I mean? Just the fact that he removes from play when he leaves the field, so that could be useful in its own way. But in this current build, that's not that big of a deal. We got, of course, we got Sir. If you control no spell and traps, you can special summon this. So that's useful if you have a monster that's not a Burning Abyss monster. That also will count as, if you have a monster face down, that will also count as you controlling a monster that is not a Burning Abyss. They will self-destruct. That sucks, but something to keep in mind. Then he has his own unique effect is, if this card is sent to the graveyard, no matter how it gets to the graveyard, whether it be XYZ material, Synchro Summon, Fusion, milled from the deck to the graveyard, from out of play to the graveyard, field to graveyard, spell and trap zone to graveyard, whatever, it will get its effect. And when it does, it will let you special summon a Burning Abyss monster from the graveyard, except, you know, a monster with his name. So you can't use him to get a copy of him, because that would create an infinite loop, and Konami doesn't want you to have that. Then we have Graph. Graph, if you control no spells and traps, you can special summon. Maybe you have a monster that is not a Burning Abyss monster, he'll self-destruct. that also counts for a monster that's face down. If this card is sent to the graveyard, no matter how it goes to the graveyard, right, you can special summon a Burning Abyss monster from your deck, except a Graph. So he can't summon a copy of himself, summon a copy of himself, summon a copy of himself, and then summon something like a Skarm. You know what I mean? Then we got Alec. If you control no spells and traps, you can special summon this card. You gotta also remember that once you apply one of these effects, you can't apply the other. So if I special summon a Burning Abyss monster, if my opponent trenchels, for example, I can't get their secondary effect because I have to do one or the other. It's not both. So that's also another thing to keep in mind instead. You can only do one or the other. It's kind of like Dragon Rulers. Alright, so Alec has the ability that if sent to the ground, no matter how, target one face-up monster on the field. That could even be your own monsters if you need to. Use it on, like, let's say, an Acid Golem or something. You can use this effect on the monster and negate this effect until the end of the turn in which this monster went to the graveyard. So, you know, it's essentially your breakthrough skill, your Veiler, whichever way you want to look at it. That's essentially what this monster is. It's useful against monsters that start off with 0 attack and then they get power boost by their own effect. You can negate their effect and then they'll have 0 attack, and then, you know, that's awesome. So that comes in handy. It's also good for monsters that can attack more than once. You can negate the ability for them to be able to do a secondary attack. You can use this to, you know, stop stuff like JD, you know, Judgment Dragon, any effects that would potentially destroy. You know, you can activate and destroy. You can make it where they can't do their effects. This will be useful against stuff like Stardust in case you want to use a destruction effect, like Dark Hole or something. You can negate his effect. Not that different from Veiler or Breakthrough Skill. We have Skarm. He's your Rhoda. He'll let you, you know, add during the end phase a Burning Abyss. Not necessarily specifically Burning Abyss monster. It could be a level 3 Dark Fiend type monster, but Burning Abyss monsters are level 3 Dark Fiends, so typically you add them. In this deck, you do just add the Burning Abyss monsters because there is no Tour Guide or any other level 3 Dark Fiend type monster level 3 that I could add to the deck. So you just be adding Burning Abyss monsters. And of course, this has the ability when you have no spells and traps, you can special summon it. If you have anything that is not a Burning Abyss monster, including a monster face down, it will self-destruct. Another thing to point out is Skarm has to still be in the graveyard during the end phase in order to apply the effect to add a Burning Abyss monster from your deck to your hand, or a level 3 Dark Fiend type monster from your deck to your hand. If somehow he ends up being brought back to the field before the end phase, or he's removed from the graveyard before the end phase, you won't be able to get the effect. He has to still be in the graveyard for you to get his effect. Unknown Synchron. Again, I said you know you can special summon it. It's a tuner, so you could sync with it, but that's not what you do with it in this deck. It's just a special monster you can special summon once you use the special summon aspect of it, and has 0 attack. So it's good when you give somebody Lava Golem, then you can summon Unknown Synchron, attack, take 3,000, play Infernal Tempest, which is, you know, basically it's the main concept in the deck. Everything else is just an add-on to give you some support. Mainly the Burning Abyss, they're floaters, but they also help you go into rank 3 plays so that we can have monsters you can attack your opponent with. So they pull double duty. They'll defend you, stall long enough for you to get your deck's main combo, but they also allow you to, you know, fight back if need be with rank 3 monsters. You can also use Unknown Synchron and Unknown Synchron, right? And Battle Fader or Unknown Synchron. Like you can special summon Unknown Synchron, then normal summon Unknown Synchron, overlay the two, and make a Slacker Magician for defensive purposes. Reversal Quiz. This is in case you took too much damage, you weren't able to block a lot of attacks. Your opponent, you know, was doing pretty good to outplay you, to prevent you from stopping them from dealing damage, and they dealt you so much that you're almost teetering on losing. But with the power of Reversal Quiz, you can turn the duel around literally, quite literally, and make it where you're in the winning position while your opponent will be in the losing position. And with the Burning Abyss, it's useful because the Burning Abyss will get their effects during the end, after the resolution of Reversal Quiz, and then hopefully the monsters that you send to the graveyard are like Graph, because Graph can let you bring out Burning Abyss from the deck, or Sir will let you bring back a Burning Abyss monster from the graveyard, set up a copy of himself, stuff like that. So that way you can still have monsters on the field to defend yourself with, or just to flat out attack your opponent once he's weak now and win the duel. Gotta love that, right? So that right there, Reversal Quiz, Burning Abyss, can be a winning condition all by itself. Also, Reversal Quiz obviously works good with Lava Golem, especially when you're low on life points. You give your opponent Lava Golem, play Reversal Quiz, choose monster, which is the obvious choice to pick since there are 30 monsters in the deck. More likely, the top card of your deck will be a monster. Life point switches, and then when you end your turn, your opponent will take 1,000 for Lava Golem's effect. If his life points is 1,000 or less, he will lose. Because that's damage, not payment. Not life points cost, is actual damage, so they will lose. So that right there is a combo in itself. But you could also Reversal Quiz and send Volcanic counters from your hand to the graveyard, and then if they attack you, and not noticing the counters in the graveyard, and they attack you, they essentially beat themselves because they have way less life points than you, and you're able to take the attack, and then they take damage for counters effect, and then they lose. Infernal Tempest, it's the bread and butter of the deck basically. It's the main purpose for the deck's existence. You take 3,000 points in damage from one battle, from one attack, and you can activate this card during the damage step and banish monsters from both players' graveyards and decks out of play. So that can really hurt your opponent if your opponent's really needs those monsters and all their spells and traps to support their monsters. If they have no monsters, they can't. Those spells and traps are useless. So every card they draw would be a dead draw, and that puts you in a winning position, right? Because all their cards are dead draws, but all yours are still alive. Especially the Dynamite will still be in your deck, or if you already have one in your hand, you can play it and it'll be live. It'll be able to do its effect and be able to deal 300 points of damage to your opponent for each of their cards removed from play. Foolish Barrel works in any way you want, but mainly you use it to potentially set up a double counter or triple counter. If you can get all three in the graveyard, that'd be awesome. To the graveyard, right? Give your opponent Lava Golem, for example. Special summon Unknown Synchron, or any of the Burning Abyss monsters, particularly one with less attack. Skarm has 800 attack, so he's the weakest. So you can special summon him and attack Lava Golem, take 2,200 points of damage, for example, and then with the triple Volcanic counters, that would be 6,600 points of damage. Along with 1,000 Lava Golem would deal them once you end your turn, so that's 76, so they'll be left with 400. But if you already dealt them damage earlier during the duel, they will be ended out, so that's a play right there. Another thing is you can obviously use Foolish Barrel. I use it a lot to start my Burning Abyss engine, because I will send a graph from my deck to the graveyard, which will let me summon a Skarm if I want to summon Skarm, or Sir, whichever way I want, because of course when Sir leaves the field and goes to graveyard during my opponent's turn, for example, I can bring back Graph, and then when Graph goes from the field to graveyard, I can bring out anything else. And of course I could bring out like a Skarm, I could bring out another Sir if I want, or just bring out another, or just bring out an Alec if I need that effect to negate a monster effect, like a Utopia, a Zenmane, a monster that can't die by battle, whatever, whatever I wanna do, I can do. So I have a lot of options, which is awesome. Then the extra deck consists of a lot of rank 3s, Slacker Magician because of the Unknown Synchron Battle Faders. She's great defense. Fortune Tune is awesome because it allows you to recycle your Burning Abyss monsters, throw them back in the deck, but also can help you recycle your Hand Trap, which is your Signal Red. Will let you recycle that if you need to. Recycle your Kirins. If you haven't gotten enough counters to graveyard, you can recycle Kirin. But typically you just use it to recycle the Burning Abyss and Signal Red. Those you can use multiple times. Once you use like Volcanic counters, they just go out of play and they already did their job, so it'll be hard to reuse them since they went out of play. Zenmane, he's fire, so he'll help you activate Volcanic counters effect, but also good defense. He's 2100. He can help you pop back row or monsters by his effect. Once per turn, if he would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can detach a material. During the end phase of the turn in which you activated that effect, you can apply the effect once to destroy one card on the field. Detaching can be done more than once, but the destroying a card on the field only applies one time during that turn. Leviar. This is how you can recycle your counters, but it is also useful for recycling your Burning Abyss, you know, just getting anything out of play back onto your side of the field, especially if you steal one of your opponent's level 4 lower monsters out of play from their banished zone. In case they banish the light and dark, and let's say one of the darks was like a Spirit Reaper or something, you can steal the Spirit Reaper. Now you got a Spirit Reaper protecting you, or a Marshmallow or something, you know, monster that can't die by battle. Now it's on your side of the field protecting you, so that's awesome, right? But mainly I like to use this to bring back the Volcanic counters so I can reuse them, so I can keep burning my opponents. Acid Golem, mainly just as a 3000 beater, you know, it comes in handy, especially under skill drain. That's very useful, because then he'll be for free. He'll be a 3000 beater free of charge. But if I deliberately want to take damage for a reversal quiz, he's useful for that. I just don't detach a material and I take 2000 points damage. But if I do, you know, whatever, if the monster that's attached to the Burning Abyss monster, I get the effect. But it's just a 3000 beater. Nightmare Shark, definitely one of my favorite rank 3s to go into in this deck. Especially if I give my opponent Lava Golem, I drop 2 Burning Abyss overlay, detach one of the Burning Abyss. Typically it's one that I don't need the effect that much. Like for example, if it's Alec, I'll detach that, or if it's Scarm, I detach that because it's not a big deal. But the ones I would want to keep as material would be Sir and Grab, because I want their effects to go off on my opponent's turn, you know, because they're going to try to kill my Nightmare Shark, obviously. So then I detach, you know, one of the other monsters, and then attack my opponent directly for 2000. So they lost 2000 points in life points. Then I end my turn, their turn, Lava Golem deals them 1000. So that's 3000 right there, you know what I mean? It's a good amount of damage. It's not nothing to laugh at, you know what I mean? It's good, it's a good chunk of change, as it were. So that's a strategy right there. If somebody tries to kill him, let's say they'd be like, oh, I attack with Lava Golem to kill him. Obviously you have Signal Red. He can block that attack so that way he can stay on the field longer. That way you can use this effect again the following turn. As good as he is in this deck, I would prefer to play 2. So I only play 1 in real life because I only own 1 copy, but I like the effect. It works so good in the deck. Sometimes I'm like in the position where I need 2 of them, so I might put 2 in the deck. Mecha Equip Engineer, good monster in general. Sometimes you don't want to use Zen main. This card is useful. I did forget the Fortune Tune also has a similar effect. If it would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you could detach him as material instead. When it actually goes to the graveyard, it will apply its effect to add 2 level 3 monsters from your graveyard back into the deck, and it returns itself back into the extra deck. So you can so it recycles itself, so you can reuse it, and it's just awesome. The ability to just reuse his effect over. Also, you gain 500 during each of your standby phases. You can't argue with that. Also, another thing I didn't notice until I just read it, because I don't typically play this, because I'm actually planning to order this card soon, so I will have an actual copy of it for myself. But I did just notice this card cannot be targeted by card effects, so woo, didn't know that, and that makes it even more awesome. So you definitely should play it. But like I was saying, sometimes you don't want to use Zen main. You might want something that lives a little bit longer, you know what I mean? So Mecha Equip Engineers, like your rank 3 Felgrand Knights, so to speak, somewhat. So it's pretty useful. So not much to say about it, it's just good. 10 Tempo, the Exceed Killer. It's useful against monsters that you know, have effects that you need to be able to chain to and, you know, detach a material to make them useless. So you gotta like that. But also just being able to take away XYZ materials from a monster, like a Utopia or something, is very useful. So that way the Utopia is rendered useless. It's also useful against a monster like Acid Golem. Somebody summon Acid Golem on you, oh man, you can have some fun. Summon 10 Tempo, right? Detach for your turn, then end your turn, then your opponent draws. Then during the standby phase, chain this effect, detach for their turn. You know what I mean? Boom. They're more likely to take 2,000 points of damage because they have no materials to detach since you detached it, which will make you a 2700 monster. And he can't attack, he can't special, and he takes 2,000 damage every turn. So you'll essentially acid burn your opponent in that scenario. But this is also useful against monsters like Nightmare Shard, Mecha Equip Engineer. I've used it on a couple XYZs to make them relatively useless. So that's the usefulness of 10 Tempo, is he helps you against other XYZs. Rhythm, the String the Jin, Muzu Rhythm. He's useful as a Acid Golem substitute in case you don't want to use Acid Golem, because you want to still be able to special summon stuff like a Burning Abyss monster or something by a Burning Abyss monster effect, or a Signal Red. I use this instead because, you know, attack, detach, become 3,000, so it gives me the ability of having a 3,000 when I need a 3,000, but it won't prevent me from special summoning like Acid Golem. Acid Golem is more for when I need a solid 3,000. In case somebody might have a, I don't know, in case somebody has a breakthrough skill or something, I don't have to worry about them, you know, breakthrough skilling Acid Golem because it's not going to do anything. Acid Golem is a 3,000 pure, while Muzu Rhythm, the String the Jin, he does have an effect, he can be negated. But this is just a backup. That's what makes him useful, is that he's just a backup. 3,000, basically he's sacrificial. I use them when I need a 3,000 or I just need to kill something guaranteed, and Acid Golem I save them for emergencies. Then we got the Mighty Submersible Carrier Arrow Shark, which I did order, so it's going to be awesome to have it. Especially it works really good in this deck because I have 30 monsters. If I get 20 more monsters removed from my deck, from Infernal Tempest effect, for example, I'll be able to deal 100 points of damage per each. So if I banish 20 monsters, that's 2,000. If I banish 30 monsters, that's 3,000. You know what I mean? If I banish 25 monsters, that's 2,500 damage. Hey, extra damage is better than nothing, especially if you combo it with Lava Golem, because that'd be an extra 1,000 to whatever you do. So if you deal 2,000 and Lava Golem deals 1,000, hey, there you go, 3,000. Damage all day. Damage all day. And then, of course, I can use Signal Red to protect my my Arrow Shark, so I can use this effect again, so it's double damage. Just think of it as a Gaga Cowboy, but on crack. Especially, you can kind of guarantee a little bit of damage with the fact that the counters and the burning and the battle faders will move themselves from play by their own effects. That right there, if all three are moved from play, that's 600 points of damage, which is close to what Gaga Cowboy does. He does 800. And then of course you are a 1900 beater, so can't argue with them results. Something I like to do is give my opponent Lava Golem, them special summon 2 Burning Abyss, overlay, make this, especially if I already did the Infernal Tempest combo, and then detach, deal damage, and my turn they'll take damage for Lava Golem, you know what I mean? And he'll be in defense mode, so I won't have to worry about taking damage. If I'm in a scenario where I special summon 3 Burning Abyss monsters and attack and deal, you know, a good amount of damage, and I could overlay all 3 and then create Battle Cruiser Dianthus, detach a material, deal 200 for every card in my opponent's hand. And if they like to draw a lot of cards, or I've been stalling so much that, you know, they've just been stacking up all cards in their hands, or I special summon a lot and they max seed, they just made my life easier, because now I'm like, overlay, detach. You take 200 for every card you just drew because of all the special summoning I did this turn. So, gotta love that, especially when they're like, ooh, I max C. I'm drawing a lot of cards. Yes, and now I end you out. So it's another Gaga Cowboy on crack, as it were, right? It's basically your rank 3 Gustav Max is the way I like to look at it. Then of course your Dante, because you play Burning Abyss. Dante will let you do the Dante loop, let you recycle, let you mill, so you can get the counters to Graver faster, get Burning Abyss effects off faster. And then he's just a nice 25 beater / defender. So gotta love all that. Even when skill drain the field, you can still mill the top 3 cards of your deck, because that's a cost to activate his effect. So even though skill drains on the field or light imprison or whatever, you can still apply it because that's a cost to activate his effect. You won't get no power boost, but you still mill 3 cards. Now hopefully they're Burning Abyss, so you can just special summon and, you know, create more monsters. Since I have the unknown synchron, and this is just generic, it's just there in case I'm in a scenario where my opponent has a Cyber Dragon, or they're playing a Cyber Dragon deck, for example. I could take advantage of the fact that they are, and since I do have a couple machine monsters in my deck as well as my extra deck, I can use it to create him. So it's just there as a free out to, you know, a big field of machines, you know what I mean? Then I got, right now in this build, I got 2 Ghost Trick Alucard, so I can do the Alucard loop, so I can keep popping back row, which is awesome, right? Since you see in this deck, I don't have stuff like Beta MST, stuff that I normally would play, because it's a monster heavy style deck. So I need something to supplement for the lack of back row hate by supplementing monsters that can double as my back row hate. So I got the Dante, the Alucard stuff, but again, I do want another Nightmare Shark in there, so I wouldn't be surprised I take out an Alucard and put in another another Nightmare Shark. Of course, some people might say, hey, take out the Chimera Tech Fortress, but that's situational. But I have been in a couple of situations where this mattered, and I like the scenario of I'd rather have it and not need it than to need it and not even have it. So to each their own. It's my play style. That's what works best for me. But I also have another option. Chromatic Crystal Chrononaut, pretty good monster. It can double. It can work similar to what's his name, Mecha Equip Engineer or Zen Main, where you can summon it and it could be defensive. The thing is the opponent more likely is going to not attack it because they know you'll just detach, and then they'll take the battle damage. But it's useful. It could work, especially if no one notices the effect and they try to summon a monster with a lot of power and they try to attack you with a big strong monster, end you out. You could be like, all right, effect, detach. Now you take the damage, so that's useful. Remember, the goal is to deal your opponent, is to reduce your opponent's life points to 0. But it's not as reliable as most of the other cards, so that's why it's not in the main deck. But it's an option you can test out on your own. And that's the end of the deck profile.